let's have a talk. So, you have caught us in a state of absolute chaos. We are moving. We're picking up, cutting our lease in the middle of it, and we're leaving. Why? What? What's happening? So, I quit my job. I think I told you that. I quit my job. I decided can't really do this thing anymore. Well, we decided to get a box truck. We're going to do this van life thing. We have a few different choices, a few different options that were kind of levied towards us on what we were supposed to do. We chose, my wife and I, we both did. We chose a box truck option. We had talked about it in the past, several years ago, before we made our way out to Ohio. It's the other one that ends with an O. Before we made our way out to Ohio. I don't remember why we didn't jump into that then.
Hi, Editing Belle here. I do know why we didn't. It's because we had to move very suddenly and didn't have time to put together a whole box truck. Luckily, this time we do.
With that being said, we have purchased a box truck for $1,500. It's not the most expensive thing in the world, and it's not so cheap that you can't trust that it at least moves. And it does, forwards, backwards, and stops. What we have here is a 1997 GMC Savannah 3500 5.7 liter automatic box truck.
What?
Those of you who know cars, it's a truck. But I don't know cars very well. I don't really know. I know that I don't know a lot, and I know that I know just enough to overlook the important stuff. But don't worry, I'm not going to be doing this entire build by myself, at least not all of it. Up to this point, I've worked on it for about 3 to 4 days. Nothing's permanently fixed, but it's better than it was when we first got it. So there's definitely work to be done. Just as a very side note here for exactly what the work is, there is a thick smell of gas, which leads me to believe that there is an exhaust leak. There's a coolant leak, for sure.
So this coolant here, I've taken this apart, I cleaned it out a little bit, just a little bit of water and rinsing. You don't want to put soap or anything like that in there. It's okay if it still has just a little bit of junk in there. You want to try and get it as close as possible. But we have a little issue right here. That crack is seeping. And that doesn't seem like a big deal, but over just the course of the last few minutes of it seeping, there's a puddle and it's going down. Now that is one of the closest parts to the bottom of the tank. So because this thing is set at an angle and whatnot, that is going to seep out a majority of our coolant over time. It is not so big of a concern to me right now that I have to run and replace this thing at this exact second. However, before we leave here and go down to Arizona, where we are going to be primarily keeping this thing as we fix it up, this is going to be acceptable. Now, I might have to run with some extra coolant. Luckily, we've got coolant from O'Reilly's. Now, this is supposed to be a Dex Cool specifically. Now, I don't actually know what that means at all, so it's special. Somehow this fuel is special, or fuel. Somehow this liquid is special, somehow. And this special liquid that we've got here is supposed to cool this machine properly. Now, for whatever reason, they don't really get along with each other very well, or something like that. So the fluid that's in here is green, in the radiator specifically. We don't like that. The fact that it's green is not helpful to us. We want it to be orange. We want it to be orange because that is the preferred manufacturer's color, which means that is probably going to be the proper color that we want to use it with. Now, it's not just that spot that's leaking. I think there are a few other small leaks in this case here. Like I said, it's very old. It's been through a lot. Heat, sand, dirt, dust, grossness, oil. It's had everything on it. So the fact that it has it's really not the worst thing in the world, but I mean, as we kind of come in here and we start really getting in there, we can see, well, there's kind of a lot of stuff coming out. So the liquid is definitely a problem, but it's not spewing, so I'm not worried about it. Now I'm going to check the transmission fluid, see what that looks like. Let's take a gander.
we can deal with that, right? Engine issues. Well, there haven't been many, except the gas gauge doesn't actually tell us how much gas is in the vehicle. It says that it's full. And I found out the hard way, driving it around, that it in fact was not full.
So we were definitely having some progress. Luckily, I'm kind of on a lower road. I'm not on a big road, but she's died on me. Could be a number of issues. Could be that she's too hot. Could be that, you know, the clutch engaged or the starter is engaged in an improper direction or way. So I'm going to give her a second to kind of breathe, see what happens. If it's an overheating issue, the last thing I want to do is, you know, keep her running. But she had a big loss of power right here. We don't really have too much of a hill or anything going on here, so that definitely tells me that there's something there with that transmission. Again, it could be literally anything. We just don't know at the moment, but I'll let her cool off for just a second. We're going to see what happens to her. If she's ready to rock again, we'll limp her back home and figure it out from there. Could be that maybe I put too much transmission fluid in there. Who knows? Who knows what it is? I can actually kind of figure it out. I can try and figure it out. Sometimes when things go wrong, we have a tendency to panic and freak out. No need. Sometimes problems that feel really big are actually very simple. So this thing was stuck upon the side of the road because it requires fuel. Gas gauge says it is full. We know that's not true. Now, what I'm going to do, because it's having some powering issues and whatnot, and I have no idea how old anything is, and put some some cleaner in there, some fuel system cleaner. Now this treats up to 15 gallons, so I'm only going to put about 10 from here into here. The gauge doesn't work. I'll have to track the miles manually. That's what the trip gauge is for. So that's all fine and dandy. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in and make it happen, you know?
Then we come to what I believe is the heart of the issue with this vehicle. And that heart just so happens to be the transmission. The transmission, if you don't know, is responsible for making all the go-go juice in the engine actually do something. Because you can have as much go-go juice as you want, and that's just gonna... But the transmission makes the car move. Now, I'm not an expert. But it's supposed to work off of pressure, liquid, and little metal things inside going whoop, and whirring all happy.
When did you become an expert in
transmissions?
Last night.
Okay, so it's hard to tell with the way that this is set here, but we're pretty content with the fluid, the color of it anyway. I don't actually know what color this is supposed to be, but we can see here we've got a pretty decent looking clarity, actually. It's not as opaque as I would have expected. Now that could be a good thing, or it can be a bad thing. Now, we have two different ways that we can really interpret this information. We can take it as, hey, I really didn't drive it around that much, but I put this in there at some point. And that's fine, right? We can live with that. But the other alternative is, hey, you know, we had a difficult time actually getting it going, getting it running. So in order to make sure that we could get it running, and if you checked all these fluids, you'd see that they're new. Now that of course creates an idea or a narrative that there was a malice in this, like somebody was attempting to try and screw us over. I don't want to think that way. I'm going to take this man at his word because we had really good interactions. So that tells me that there's a really good chance that he did his best to take care of this vehicle overall. But what we do know is that there is fluid in each one of these things. So at the very least, nothing should seize, even if it's not necessarily the greatest thing for it. This oil and the filter will be changed, not right now, later though. The transmission fluid will eventually be changed as well. Because we can't go over 50 right now, and there may be some overarching issues with this vehicle that we aren't in control of at this moment. We may have to do like a rebuild, or we may have to drop the pan and work on the transmission. That'll be something that I'll do with a professional. That's not something that I'm going to attempt to do myself. Okay, so I just went to my father about this because he's done engine stuff more than I have. I asked him his opinion on a few different things. Told me I can't check the transmission fluid without having the car idle. Let's check it again. Well, That ain't good. Well, I don't think that's what I'm supposed to be looking at. Yeah, that ain't a lot of transmission fluid, is it? Maybe we should do something about that, huh? We should do something about that. Okay, so because we now know that we need to have this vehicle idling while we're checking the transmission fluid, we made the shocking discovery that there's no transmission fluid in there. Well, not enough anyway. So what we did, we popped on over to O'Reilly's, some generic Dexron.
This vehicle does not go above 50. Well, mostly. I got it to 62, but it got pretty hot. Because I am not a qualified transmission technician, I am employing the assistance of local shops. I don't know how much those services are as of the making of this video. Now, I do believe that the transmission is unfortunately most likely going to have a pretty significant overhaul. The truck itself is nearly 30 years. On top of that, the truck itself is also what we would refer to as a burner vehicle. A burner vehicle, or a burner, for those of you who don't know, are individuals that attend the Burning Man Festival. They're responsible for a lot of dirt, dust, trash, debris, all kinds of just garbage.
Hey guys, Editing Belle again. I'm going to go ahead and link a video in the description from Explore With Us that does a lot more of a deep dive on Burning Man and the effects that it has. Please feel free to go watch that video to learn a little bit more, and otherwise, I highly recommend doing some research on it.
Essentially, what we're going to have to do is figure out exactly why this vehicle isn't doing what it's supposed to do. Probably going to have the transmission completely rebuilt, worked on something or another, so it actually does what it's supposed to. Once that's taken care of, then we have the engine to deal with. Now, it's clear to me that there's some kind of an oil leak or something that's going on, but very minorly. Honestly, for me, I can feel relatively comfortable just changing out the sparks plugs. You guys know the sparky sparks. We're going to go ahead and take the sparky sparks out once we get the transmission figured out and taken care of, because at that point we know that as much as we can do is done. And this transmission issue is the biggest thing, along with that exhaust issue. Now, the big thing for me about the exhaust issue is it just happens to be right under the box of the truck. That's dangerous. We don't like that. When we're driving down the highway, not a big deal, but when we're stopped, that's a big deal. You can see behind me the room is a little chaotic, just a little bit. And for those of you who are wondering, questioning our life choices, so are we. I can't know how this is going to turn out. It's going to be a very fun experiment. I'm already having a blast working on the truck, getting it fixed little at a time, little bits, the things that I can do, which is... Now we're gonna have to go and take that thing in, like I said, figure it out from there. You're a stinky boy. It's permeating. So that's what the truck's looking like. That is the visual of it. And at this point, it's more just about actually jumping in and getting it done. I'm waiting for a phone call from the transmission guys to see if we can get in there and make it happen.
Alrighty, so I guess you guys are going to get really comfortable with Editing Belle. The video here that we were recording, we were just trying to give you a quick little tour of the truck, but it was cold out and you can hear us sniffling and you can hear all sorts of other sounds. So instead, you just get to hear the voiceover. So we're just showing you a bit of what's under the hood, the condition that the truck is in. It is quite the mess. As mentioned, this truck was taken to Burning Man. There is literally craft acrylic paint. There's mud and dust all over the place. There's an insane amount of duct tape on the doors, as you can see by Foxx hitting that. There's cracks in the windshield. There's stickers all over the door here, and the seat covers on this shed like crazy. The door doesn't exactly open very smoothly because of all the goofy attachments that are on there, but that is certainly something we're planning on fixing up. As you can see, we've got ugly leopard spot on the side. We're planning on fixing that. And once we get in, this is the condition that we had the truck in when we first purchased it. So you can see there's plenty of alcohol bottles. That cover actually goes over the engine in the cab. And aren't we so lucky? We got a couple of boxes to go along with everything. It's all fairly closed off with all the built-in benches and the built-in loft bed, and it seems that they really decided to use that insulation foam to block off everything.
Do they build this on top of there? I think they might have built it on top of there.
Show that
It's
again.
all gotta go.
Do that.
Oh yeah,
That's gonna suck.
It's all gotta go. This is gonna have to go.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate too, because I don't know what's underneath here. I'm not taking this up yet.
Fair.
I might take up some of the ones on the sides that are already up so there's no tripping hazard, but I'm not going to do it. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why you don't do this. This is why we don't have this. That is why we do not install these rubber or these glue down vinyl things in here.
Tell him, Mr. Measure Tech.
Now we don't do that because it all buckles, it all comes apart. This is, I mean, who knows how old it is, but it's clear this thing has seen some time.
Ooh, gross.
Yeah, I'd just leave it there.
Rough.
And we'll pull it out eventually.
Here she is, ladies and gents.
It's gonna be loud though.
All right, let's do this thing. She runs. She doesn't go over 45 and she smells like exhaust, but she runs.
Those are the two things that need the most right now. Oops, air filter. Forgive me for the angle change, but this is just the way it's got to be. So what we're doing now is we're going to check the oil. If you don't know, run the car for just a few minutes, let the temperature kind of warm up, let the heat sensor or the temperature gauge kind of go up just a little bit, maybe 100 degrees or whatever. You don't want it to go too crazy. Turn it off, you know, and then you're going to pull the dipstick out, right? Our dipstick, this one's super, super, super long, but we're going to pull this out. We're going to wipe it down, right? So first things first, you wipe it down and then you're going to throw it back in there. Well, I've already taken this out to check, but you see we got some brown in there, which is good. We like that. And when we put it down on here, there we go. And we put it down on here, you can see it's a little bit better. So, okay, so we're back to the proper angle here for this shot. This is the coloring of the oil. I'm okay with it, but I would say that I am not 100% pleased with it. I don't know when this was changed, right? So because I don't know when this was changed, the responsible thing to do is to do the change. You can go to a shop for it or whatever. I'm going to do mine at home. The reason I'm not totally convinced I'm actually happy with this oil is that I don't know how long this car has been sitting. I do know that it has been sitting on and off at least for the last 4 years. Prior to that, supposedly it ran and drove. I should say allegedly. Not supposedly, allegedly, which is not to confirm or deny. Because of that, and because I don't know exactly how old or what kind of oil has been used here, there's some oils that actually remain pretty clear for a really long time, even though they're really old and need to be changed. So the safest thing to do will be to do an oil change on this. And this is the end of day one thus far. Getting this done. At least I can walk around in here. It's still pretty dirty, still pretty messy. That's what it's going to look like when it's mopped, which is definitely going to be a lot better. As far as the front goes, the front's in total shambles still. But overall, not too shabby, I'd say. Not too shabby at all. Definitely some problems. All right, this is a mess. What am I getting myself into? I don't know what I'm getting myself into. What am I doing? Why am I doing this to myself? So it's day 2 of this vehicle thing. She looks pretty enough. As far as the sound goes, it's good. The real question is, when did anything get changed last? How long has it been sitting? Is this stuff brand new that they put into it? Or is this old stuff, and since it's been sitting for so long not being used, it hasn't shown any use, but it's actually really old and gross? It's really hard to know. But just from the sounds of everything, sounds like a truck. Sounds like it's 20 years older than it actually is. Let's see, 90s, that's 30 years older than it actually is. Yeah, 20, 30 years older than it actually is, but hey, that's okay. And then again, from up here, we do have a little bit of whirling, probably coming from, let's see here if we can get in a zoom. Coming from the alternator, there's a whirl, which might mean that the bearing on that wheel is coming out. And to make sure the alternator is working correctly, we can take a metal tool, and we're gonna see if that metal tool that we're gonna use over here magnetizes. Because if it magnetizes, it means that it's doing its job in creating power. If it doesn't magnetize, it means that it is not doing its job and not creating power. Use a rubber handle on there. Make sure you're not touching anything that's grounded. You don't want to shock yourself on accident. Yep. So good news. I bring it over to here, and it pulls itself right in. So that's magnetizing. So we know our alternator is good. Probably don't do that a whole lot, you know, but that's just that's a 5 second test just to see. Don't get it caught in the belt. That's not good for you. It's not good for your belt. It'll probably hurt. It'll probably hurt everybody, like your car and you, so don't touch the belt. You're touching the metal beside the belt. Okay? Very important. Don't touch the belt while it's running. Don't touch the belt while the vehicle's running. Regardless of anything you see, don't do that. Please. Please don't do that. Got a late start today. I'll get an earlier start tomorrow and actually get some of this stuff taken care of because it's filthy. Yeah, fun.
Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. You've been amazing. You have been great. You've been fantastic. You are wonderful listeners. I was able to talk through the entire point without you guys interrupting once. That's a free yawn on me. You're welcome. Okay, love you. Bye.
Jolly as fuck. Horse chakra alignment. What the hell?
That one can't be
What
shown on
even
YouTube.
is that? I'll just blur it out.
Yeah, that can be shown.
I'll blur out the junk. What the hell? Camp Everybody Loves D. Cargo Cult Burning Man. Zoom into the... What is that? Zoom into the decadence. There we go. Burning Man. Font is terrible to read. The F team. Zombie team. What is even happening? What? This is crazy.
Isn't it fun?
The Burning Man culture is unique.